And we are back, and we just finished watching 2017's Venus with a runtime of 1 hour and 35 minutes. There is no rating on this on IMDb, but I think it said TVMA or TV 14.
14, I think.
There's maybe one curse word, I think I remember.
There's nothing really.
There's nothing too graphic. I mean, somebody's butt is shown.
Yeah, butt cheeks, and I think
chest area.
Like one profanity.
One profanity, chest, like topless, whatever. I don't know. So this is the story of a person who is transitioning, and then she discovers that she has, what is he, like a 13, 14-year-old boy?
Yeah, I think it was around that age.
This was written and directed by Eisha Marjara. I think I said that correctly. Maybe not. If I didn't, I apologize. And has Debargo Sanyal as Sid, the main protagonist, and Jamie Myers as Ralph, who is the son. I enjoyed this. I thought it wasn't long, so it moved fairly well. There were a couple of instances where I was like, well, why did that happen? But I guess you're building up this drama, right?
Like what?
Just like we were talking about, like when the mother talks to Sid and the mother's like,
yes.
oh, I'll be there after your surgery, which to me seemed like a big gesture for somebody from a conservative background and
somebody who was like, it wasn't much earlier before that where she was just like sobbing saying, I want my son.
Right.
Give me my son back.
Right.
And then she like sort of, I guess, moves into the acceptance phase, and now it seemed like she was trying to be supportive.
Right.
And in I thought that scene was a bit strange too, and that you'd figure that would be something that Sid would be happy about.
Right.
But I mean, like
I'm
not a trans person. I don't know
what that feels like.
Is there like you'd think, okay, he's going through the treatments. I'm guessing surgery would be an option at some point if he wanted to go that far.
Mm-hmm. But maybe he wasn't. I mean, maybe she wasn't ready at that point.
Right. And I think maybe that's like the mentality of us. But in Sid's mind, it was just accept me as I am at this particular point in time.
Right.
And in his mind, he viewed it as his mother being unable. I'm sorry.
Her mind.
You threw me off. In her mind, he was. In her mind, she was. See, I'm old.
But we're trying to get those pronouns right.
I'm trying to get the pronouns right.
Yeah.
She viewed it in her mind as her mother not being able to accept her
for who
as
she
a
is.
woman,
right?
Until she did the whole thing,
surgery,
the whole thing with the surgery, and was completely
transitioned. Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, I felt like, and again, 100% what you just said, because I don't walk in those shoes, so I don't know what that feels like. But at the same time, I would feel like this is a big step for somebody with that kind of mindset. So again, not to disparage anybody's life experiences, but it's like pick and choose your battles. Like when I watched that scene, I was like, okay, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I'm like, this woman's throwing you an olive branch. So
and think
work
about her
with it.
Yeah, and think about the mother's mentality, and that she's definitely old school.
Yeah. I mean, she turned it around once she realized that she had a grandbaby, right?
Yeah.
I think that was the thing that
was the
kind
thing that,
of
like, really
smoothed over the news of the transition.
Right. It was like she's losing a son,
but she's gaining
a grandchild.
Right.
And then I guess through that, it's like coming to accept that her son is now
her
going
daughter
to become her daughter, or is her daughter. Yeah, I mean, I think that the strength of the film lies in basically exposing that point of view, Sid's point of view, to someone like me who
doesn't know anything about that.
I don't know anything about it. I probably have like a very rudimentary concept of of what somebody like that wants or desires or wants to go through with their life. Like if I was going to write a story, I probably would not be the best person to write a story where the character was trans.
Right.
And and particularly in the fact that I would not have I wouldn't see that problem that Sid had with what her mother said.
Right.
Like for me, that would be, that's the joyous occasion. Yay, yippee, I'm accepted.
Right.
But
there are nuances to that.
There are nuances to that. I mean, you're not only dealing with this concept of transitioning, you're also dealing with traditionalism.
Right, because they're Indian,
because
which is
Indian, very traditional culture. It was funny. The father seemed
super cool,
way easier as far as going with the flow of it. I'm wondering if, because the father,
obviously a stepfather.
Was he a stepfather?
I believe so.
Is that why he always called him? He didn't call him Dad. He called him like Papa G.
Yeah, because if you remember when he calls him his dad, but he said that one of the happiest days in her mother's life, in Sid's mother's life, was the last thing was when she left her in-laws, meaning like the first marriage, I guess.
But the other thing was the day you were born. How would he have seen that if he wasn't the father?
Oh, that's interesting.
I think it was his dad. I think I'm ignorant of Indian culture. Perhaps Papa G is just, it's like dad or pop or.
I don't know. I you know what? That's actually point. My interpretation of it was that she had this child. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the marriage didn't work out. Maybe she left when she was pregnant. I don't know.
I don't think it does. Once again, traditional Indian society. It's like there is no. You're married and that's it. Yeah. Unless the guy's dead, and even then, it's like, all right, well, you're done.
Right. You live here.
You live here now
as one big extended family.
You're basically, you got to stay with us now.
Yeah.
But anyway, like
I mean, there's no real color on that. I'm still of the opinion that he was a second marriage for her.
There are aspects to that where I could see that too, but then there are other aspects where I'm like, no, he's his dad. I don't know. The fact that there was some ambiguity there may have just been like a fault of the writing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a good film. I think the writing could have been a little bit stronger.
But it's
the trailer kind of really threw me for a loop because the trailer really makes it seem like it's some sort of like comedy.
Slapstick. Yeah.
And
this was more dramatic.
This was a lot more dramatic.
There was
really
funny moments, but it wasn't like. It felt more rooted in family drama.
Yeah, this was definitely like a family drama thing. This was not a comedy to me. The trailer makes it seem like Sid is sort of like very irreverent and
and that's not her personality
that's not
at
really
all.
It at all. It's somebody who's really
just trying to navigate their truth.
Exactly. Like in the beginning, Sid's still dressed as a man, living their life as a man, and then finally making that commitment. And that was like a big step in the beginning to go outside. That was like another thing about it. It was like hiding who you are by just doing whatever you do inside the house. And that was also like a big aspect of the relationship she had with Daniel.
Right. Let's talk about Daniel.
Who was basically that was his mode. It was like, this is who I am. But nobody could ever know.
No,
God forbid my brother called me
the
F word, and I would have killed him if those guys hadn't pulled me off.
Yeah.
And then that bit at the end, like after it seems like he opens up and he's like, "Bro, I'm gonna finally accept it," and blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then she's walking down the street and she sees him at the bar with his friends and she waves and he's just like
he doesn't even know her.
He's like, dude, what's that? Who's that? Yeah. Not cool, man.
Yeah.
And then good on her
for telling him to get lost.
He's like, oh, I'm so sorry.
I
told them everything and it won't happen again. And she's just like, that's where the profanity occurred. There you go. I remember that now.
Yeah. She's like, that's nice. Now get the hell out of my house.
Yeah.
She didn't say hell though.
Good for you. Get the F out.
Yeah. I enjoyed that scene because it felt like she was
a long time coming. Too.
Well, that and just the fact that she gave herself the respect that she deserved, because that quote, like, people treat you how you allow them to treat you.
Yes.
So she had been co-signing off on his behavior. They had a relationship before when Sid was previously a gentleman. And it seemed like that didn't work out. And then they see each other again in the park. And now Sid is transitioning.
I think that was they had a relationship before when Sid would outside be dressed as a man. But the scenes that they showed of the relationship before, he was dressed as a woman.
But that was now. I don't know.
No. The when she was remembering the past, the relationship before, I guess they broke up or whatever. He was dressed as a woman, but then when he would go to work and live his life out on the, walking around the street, he would dress as a man. And then he decided,
this is it.
I'm making the plunge. This is me. Accept me as who I am. And I think even what's his name, Daniel, even comments on that, saying, so now you're like, because they run into each other on the street
in the park.
Yeah,
they're like, yeah.
So, and that's when he sees her outside as
a lady,
dressed as a woman.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was part of the whole staying in, basically being closeted.
Right, which she alludes to several times, right? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's I think that the strength of the film lies in that whole exposing you to that point of view. The story is interesting. Realizing she has a son now, dealing with obviously transitioning, dealing with
family,
the stares of people, trying to find acceptance, dealing with her family. There's a lot of drama. This is not a comedy.
Yeah,
I feel Sid could have been
a little bit more fleshed out,
more personality. That's where I feel like the writing was a bit lax. She was very reactionary character. It wasn't like okay, now she's out walking around, but the whole film is just, it's like her reaction to everybody else. Yeah, you don't really get much of a sense of Sid's personality.
No. And she comes across a little, I don't want to say cold, but kind of.
Yeah, and I could see that, considering it's part of the reactionary character that I was mentioning, is very defensive. I've seen characters like that before, but they still had some kind of personality, some kind of charm.
Right.
That makes you be like, you know what, I'm rooting for this character.
Right,
I was rooting for Sid, but I wasn't like, I can't wait to find out more. I can't wait to see what happens next.
One scene that I thought was very human, I guess, not that people aren't human, but the scene, like when Sid realizes that after the whole thing where Daniel doesn't acknowledge her and her friend is in bed with her and she says something to the effect of, oh honey, this was hard, everything else after this is easy. So I thought that was very lovely, because it showed like this vulnerability, even though Sid didn't say very much, but in that moment she's let her guard down, she's let her defense down. She has this friend in her space consoling her, and she's not crying hysterically. I mean, there's another scene prior to that where her and Daniel have that conversation and she starts to cry and she's like, be out with me.
Yeah.
Where she's also showing emotion and showing a little bit more of herself. But for the most part, everything felt very, at least to me, I could be wrong, but Sid's interactions, even with Ralph, who's her son, it felt very, not standoffish, but just not, like when she leaves the voicemail message, she doesn't say like, I love you or anything. And maybe it's too soon to say that, but this is your son, right? So I don't know.
I mean, I kind of thought about that too, but then I also thought about the whole newness of this. And
right.
Yeah, would you feel weird saying that? It's expected.
Sure.
But the fact of the matter is that she met that kid like a
3 days
couple of weeks
ago. I mean, yeah.
So,
and I loved the Ralph character.
Ralph was good. I don't know if I would say he was that amazing.
I liked him a lot. I mean, I liked the fact
he had
that
a bit more personality, obviously being young.
But I think I love the fact that he was like, I mean, maybe that's just a young person's thing. Like even Sid says it in the thing. He's like, oh, you were looking for a dad. And he's like, I don't care. He just wanted to be loved, right? So he came looking for his father. Instead, he got another mother. And he just rolled with it.
Yeah.
He just rolled with it. And I loved that about him. I loved that he just didn't care. He was just all about being with Granny and Grandpa and Mom and her boyfriend and just immersing himself in this life because it felt like he was starved for attention. And in that little scene where he's playing ping pong, I guess, at his mother's, as his actual biological mother's house, and she kind of joins in, it was almost like, oh, this is what he wants, right? He just wants attention. Yeah. He just wants...
I think that may have been one of the kind of shortcomings of it for me is that they don't explore
that relationship.
Not only that, but it was like they didn't really make it seem like the mother or the stepdad were doing anything that was bad. Like I didn't feel like they were neglecting him at all. They were always talking to him. Mm-hmm. Where are you? What are you doing? I just I don't know.
He was well taken care of. He wasn't taken care of.
It would be one thing if like they were just like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't do it. I'm busy working. But even when he said he had like what was it, some sort of show or whatever for school, the mother was like, okay, we're going. The stepdad was like, oh,
I can't.
I can't. I may have something to do. But the mother was just like, I'm there.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh, sorry, kid, I'm going to be pulling all-nighters at work that week or something.
Right.
So, yeah, that felt a little bit, I don't know.
And even Sid is like, you turned out okay, so your parents must be doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like he was being abused or neglected.
Yeah. Well, I think he just wanted that other part of his... I mean, I'm sure if you've grown up with just... one side of the story. I mean, usually it takes two parents to make you. So he's not usually, but well, in this case, obviously it happened that way too, but he was missing that other piece of the puzzle about his familial history. So I could see being curious, and then just him diving just like head first with no hesitation.
No hesitation, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I love that about him. And the little thing at the end where he's kind of like wearing his mother's clothes, I thought made me laugh a little, and how he wanted to steal her pumps, which was hilarious.
No. Yeah, it was a good movie. It wasn't
overly saccharine either. It was everything felt, I mean, some things felt a little off, but nothing felt out of the realm of the real, right? Like, these are all conversations that people could technically have. These are all situations that could possibly arise. Yeah. And it felt very much rooted in, like, probably a lived experience. I don't know if the writer
there was a lot,
that, but
there was a lot going on.
Yes.
There was a lot, like Sid's life was like a whirlwind.
Yes. But it was nice because again, I'm not Indian, but I come from Spanish culture, and some of it's very conservative. Now, as we get older, you have, I guess, more leniency, but my parents' generation, they were born in the 1930s, and they were super conservative, super religious. None of this would have flown with them, obviously. Yeah. So, and yet it's funny because you and I have had this conversation, like if one of our kids came to us and said, I'm gay or I'm trans or whatever, and we'd be like, okay, whatever. And we'd sort of just roll with it too, because at the end of the day, you're my kid and I don't give a crap. I just want you to be healthy and happy, right? So, but that wouldn't have flown with our parents' generation.
No, You'd have gotten it beaten out of you.
Yes, exactly.
Nothing couldn't be solved
without a beating.
With a good slap.
Yeah. I appreciated that because it's like, I'm sure it still happens. I'm sure there's still parts of people's familial ties that will not accept this type of
life.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So it was nice that was sort of addressed. I hated Daniel by the end. I mean, I was hoping that this would work out, but it didn't. And then by the end, I couldn't stand him. And I was so happy that she basically like just ran him off. Just was like, okay, that's nice. Have a nice life. I'm done with you.
Yeah.
And I thought that was another really great like little kernel of the story, because even in regular or just on other types of relationships, just people, there's not every relationship, but there are instances where one partner is more manipulative of the other, kind of. And it was nice that she finally kind of broke in a way and was like, I'm not tolerating this anymore.
Yeah. She didn't want, like, basically she was pretty much being just used.
Right.
It was like, all right.
Yeah, whenever it's convenient for him.
My little private thing here. And,
right.
But as far as the outside world goes, we don't know each other.
Right. And even Ralph brings it up.
Which is not like a... Yeah, that was another thing. Ralph actually says, when are you guys actually
why don't you guys ever go out? Right.
And I think that like also like sparked turned
something
on a light in Sid's mind that, you know, why are we not?
Right.
So, yeah, even though they're together, they're not really. It's like I said, it's more like a pastime for him, like a private little hobby.
Right.
That's not a relationship.
Exactly. If you were gonna give this film a number from 1 to 10, what would it be?
Probably give it like a 6.5.
6.5. I was going to give it a 7. I think the writing is decent. I think I agree with you. I think some things could have been worked on a little bit better.
Yeah, I think Sid's character could have just had a little bit more personality. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sid's character wasn't bad by any means. It was just
she could have used a little edit or two.
Yeah, a little bit more charm.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But I think overall as a picture, I think it worked. I mean, this isn't winning any awards. I mean, it's not top tier cinematography. It's not the most ambitious script.
Yeah, it's on Tubi.
But I think as far as movies about representation and about we're in the month of Pride, just telling these types of stories, and there's so many out there, and I think that people transitioning is something that we don't usually get a lot of stories about. I think obviously that's going to change now with more focus on those types of stories, but I think this did a really nice job of kind of addressing this day in the life of this person who decided to really like love and embrace themselves and live their truth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 6.5, 7. If you haven't seen it and you're looking for a story about pride, this is I would categorize this as family friendly. Again, I think there's one curse word, there's one topless scene, and there's one butt scene.
Yeah,
but it goes by very quick.
Yeah, there's also one scene where the Sid and Daniel are in bed together.
Right.
But nothing's going
shown
on.
or anything. Yeah.
Nothing's going on.
Yeah. If you want to have a conversation with a kid about this sort of thing, it did say TV 14.
TV 14, yeah.
So I guess 14 and up. I mean,
probably for the butt.
Possibly.
And
I mean, we watched this with our kids. They weren't traumatized or anything. I think I heard Olive laugh a few times. I think G looked up from her phone occasionally.
Yeah, Olive was running around too.
Yeah. I mean, she wasn't completely invested in the story, but I think the things that she saw, she was kind of okay with. She laughed a few times.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you're looking for a story for Pride that's family friendly, I think this is a really short bet. Again, it's on Tubi. It's an hour and, what did I say it was? An hour and 35 minutes from 2017. It's called Venus. Check it out. And that's it from us, and we will bid you all a good night.
Good night.